I'm Noah F. Bunyan, director of the occult cosmic horror film The King in Yellow, and I'm here today to increase my media presence. I'm also here because I love classic horror, and I've always thought mummies are super underrated. I've watched, over these past few months, more mummy movies than most people alive, around 60, and I'm currently working on a feature-length horror screenplay that revolves around a mummy. Today I wanted to put together a tier list for all the movies I've seen. I wanted to get into the Halloween spirit, and hopefully with this list you can too. S tier is my favorite mummy movies, the best of the best. Let's begin with 1998's The Eternal.
An alcoholic couple trying to quit drinking travel to Ireland with their young son, where they encounter Christopher Walken and a bog mummy that may be the wife's past life. I love the style and atmosphere of this movie. Jared Harris and Rachel O'Rourke do great as the lead couple.
This is a great first movie to start with, and I do worry about how things will go as we go further down the list. I've watched more movies regarding mummies than any sane person would, and some of them are going to be bad. But we're not there yet, so let's have a great time.
Let's continue with The Secret of the Mummy from 1982.
An energetic and unique Brazilian mummy film. It's fast-paced and you never know where it's going to go.
The sun is rising, and it's time for 1981's Dawn of the Mummy.
Possibly the only mummy movie made by an actual Egyptian, it was filmed with an Italian crew and has some standout moments inspired by Dawn of the Dead. The mummy causes a zombie outbreak. I've always thought mummies are basically siblings to zombies, so it was cool to see a film's mythology merge the two into one.
Beware, it's 1964, and it is time for The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb.
This is one of the 4 Hammer mummy movies. I think it's slightly better than the first Hammer horror mummy movie. What it lacks in Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, it makes up for with better kills and a stronger story.
It's 1940. Watch out for The Mummy's Hand.
This isn't often ranked on the same level as the original Mummy, but I think these films represent the two kinds of mummy films. The Mummy's Hand is the first to portray the mummy, this time named Karis, as a slasher, stalking an atmospheric desert camp at night and killing his victims in their tent.
Let's go back to the one that started it all, with 1932's The Mummy.
The Mummy 1932 was the one that really started the cycle of mummy films we are still in today. It's by far the most influential film on this list, with a groundbreaking performance by Boris Karloff. The movie is of the other kind of mummy film, the lost love reincarnation story. It takes ideas liberally from the 1931 Dracula, but I think it still accomplishes them more effectively. It also portrays the mummy as more of a sorcerer, which I think helps to differentiate it from a standard zombie. Karis from The Mummy's Hand is a zombie, Imhotep is a sorcerer, perhaps more of a lich.
Let's close things out with S tier, with a bit of a strange one, Tales from the Dark Side, the movie from 1990.
Only one segment here in this anthology is about mummies, but it's a great segment, adapting Arthur Conan Doyle's story Lot 249. The mummy is brutal, like an 80s slasher, and looks great, like he could crumble to dust at any moment. The mummy is under someone's control in this, much like The Mummy's Hand, so I wonder if that film got the idea from Doyle.
Let's begin A tier with silent film Mercy, the Mummy Mumbled from 1918.
This is a silent short film with an all-black cast. It's a remake of a 1914 film, but I think this version is funnier. It's really cool and interesting to see a film with an all-black cast from this era.
Let's fast forward to 2019 for Blood of the Mummy.
Blood of the Mummy takes the reincarnation plot and even some names from the Universal Mummy films, but asks, what if the mummy's reincarnated love was the lead singer of an Evanescence-type band? I loved it. It's one of the better films from the recent cycle of low-budget, independently made mummy movies.
Enter The Tomb in 2006.
This is a gift. It's an 80s-style Italian exploitation movie from Bruno Mattei, filmed in 2006. It's poorly acted and hilariously shot and staged, even stealing footage from the 1999 Mummy film. In summary, I love this movie.
It's 2002. Let's watch Bubba Hotep.
Bruce Campbell as Elvis and Ossie Davis as JFK trying to hunt a mummy killing people in a Texas old folks home. It's funny and heartfelt. Watch it.
Let's move to one of the most famous mummy films, 1999's The Mummy.
This is an action-adventure loose remake of the 1932 film. The cast is all great, and even though it's not my favorite, and it has aged, it's still a really fun time.
This is another unusual one, 2012's Prometheus.
I watched this partway through my Mummy marathon, unconnected, and I was like, am I going insane? Is this a Mummy movie? The answer is yes, it is.
It's time to watch a found footage movie with 2014's The Pyramid.
It's a fun found footage horror set at an archaeological dig. There's no actual living mummies in this, but there are things locked in an ancient pyramid trying to get out, so I think it counts.
Let's go back to 1975 to watch Paul Naschy's The Mummy's Revenge.
A Paul Naschy mummy movie from Spain. It's classic Hammer and Universal inspired gothic horror with a Freudian twist. There's an interesting sexual element, where they seem to imply the mummy is impotent due to being a mummy, and because of this, his sexuality has been replaced by violent murder. I recommend this to anyone looking to learn more about the Spanish Gothic genre.
I hope you got good seats, because we're watching 1964's Wrestling Women versus the Aztec Mummy.
This is the best of the Mexican mummy films from this period, and pits wrestling women against an Aztec mummy that is also sometimes a vampire. Unlike the above film, I wouldn't recommend this for newcomers to Mexican horror, but I think I would for people looking to get into the Aztec Mummy series.
Let's head over to jolly old England for 1959's The Mummy.
It's iconic, classic Hammer. The colors and lavish sets really pop, and the film is carried by the always fantastic performances of Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. It's technically a remake of The Mummy's Hand, but incorporates elements from all the KRS sequels. This is one of the first Mummy films to actively question whether stealing artifacts from another culture is bad. This is a welcome change from the proluding narratives of some of the Universal films. It also has a great performance from George Pastel as the Mummy's master.
Let's close things out with something of a sci-fi twist with 1982's Time Walker.
The Mummy is an alien. Watch it. It's really funny.
Let's begin B tier with Lot 249 from 2023.
This is another adaptation of Arthur Conan Doyle's short, this time done by the BBC as their Christmas ghost story. It includes a Sherlock Holmes cameo and plays with one popular literary analysis of the short story that suggests a gay subtext between some of the main characters. It's a quick and fun watch and has Jon Snow, Kit Harington in it.
Let's move on to The Mummy's Tomb from 1942.
The second KRS Mummy film from Universal. It takes the mummy to America and puts him in a prototype of the Michael Myers role as he stalks the suburbs. The KRS branch of mummy films always feature a mummy master, sort of a sorcerer that commands the brute mummy. This film is the first, I think, to do something interesting with the Mummy Master. 1954's Mummy is the second. I think Mummy Masters are interesting in that they're taking the two sides of Boris Karloff's performance, the mummy and the sorcerer, and splitting them into two roles.
Let's travel back in time for The Eyes of the Mummy from 1918.
It's a silent mummy film. Prior to the Universal Mummy, mummies were often depicted not as horror characters, but romantic. There are numerous short stories where British men will encounter a beautiful female mummy, and she will come to life and fall in love with him. This is in the style of one of those. This type of story has been criticized for fetishizing Egyptian culture and archaeology. Kinda weird, bro.
It's back to the near past with American Mummy from 2014.
The most recent Aztec mummy movie. It's very low budget, the mummy hardly even moves, and most of the horror is people being possessed by the mummy. It's not C tier because, believe it or not, mummy movies get far worse than this, and at least the story was coherent and the mummy had a unique design. After a while, standard mummies all start to look the same, and this is a great twist on the design. It has a massive shiny death mask that really creates a unique look.
Let's talk about Curse of the Mummy from 1970.
This is our first adaptation on the list of Bram Stoker's Jewel of the Seven Stars. That book was probably the first piece of media to pair reincarnation with mummies, and probably inspired 1932's The Mummy. This is a TV movie adaptation that functions like a stage play. One interesting connection to the Tom Cruise Mummy and Bram Stoker's work is the mummy in the book, and in this, the mummy that inspired Karloff's is a woman. The other influences for the Karloff film were Dracula and the story of Cagliostro, a medieval man who claimed to be an immortal sorcerer. This means that a lot of how we know mummies today wouldn't have happened without the influence of Bram Stoker, or that weird medieval guy who's totally lying and isn't me.
Next up is Pharaoh's Curse from 1957.
This film by United Artists is an attempt by another American studio besides Universal to cash in on the mummy. It takes place at an interesting historical period for Egypt, as riots have broken out against the British. The mummy sucks the life out of people and leaves them looking like mummies themselves. What I think holds it back is it feels outdated next to the color mummy film from Hammer that would come out only 2 years later. It's sort of been forgotten in the shuffle of time between the Universal films and the Hammer films.
Let's switch things up by talking about Moon Knight from 2022.
This show has mummies in it. It's on here because it's a mini-series. It was written to be basically like a movie, just split into chunks. It's got some amazing actors, but isn't ranked higher because it feels too long, and I think it should have just been a movie, or it should have been like an actual TV show. They're doing that Agatha All Along thing now. That feels like a TV show. I'm liking that in some ways better, but I mean, Oscar Isaac's great, you know?
Let's continue with Blood from the Mummy's Tomb from 1971.
I love this movie. It's another Jewel of the Seven Stars adaptation. It is not ranked higher because it doesn't have an actual mummy in bandages. It does, on the other hand, have London hippies, and is, however, fantastic. It operates like a curse film. It takes the beautiful woman mummy trope of Victorian writing that Stoker might have been playing off of, and makes it horrifying in the best way possible.
Let's continue with The Awakening from 1980.
It's a Charlton Heston vehicle, and another adaptation of Jewel of the Seven Stars, this time on a massive budget. Still no killer mummy though. It brings the cursed film element forward. It borrows a lot from The Omen. It also features a very funny hair and makeup element where Heston's daughter, to show that she is possessed by the mummy, walks into the scene with braided hair.
Next up is The Mummy Resurrection from 2023.
Not to be confused with The Mummy Resurrected, a Jewel of the Seven Stars adaptation from 2014, because marketing said no to unique names with these modern mummy movies. This is actually good. It's a low-budget Victorian set horror from a director I like, Steve Lawson, and it plays with scientific versus magical explanations for the mummy. There's a scene where they bring a mummy back to life with blood transfusions and adrenaline, to which I can only say, cool.
We're returning to the Silent Age with The Egyptian Mummy from 1914.
The silent film I mentioned earlier. It's fun, but not as good as what came later. Still, it's always a good time to watch a film this old and experience some film history.
Next we have 2001's The Mummy Returns.
More nonsensical than the first due to the script, this film has some cool monsters and action, but it doesn't make much sense.
Next we have The Mummy's Shroud from 1967.
Probably my least favorite of the Hammer mummy films. I love that they do something unique and interesting with the mummy's design, but this is absolutely the goofiest of those films.
Let's go back to 1988 for a bit of an unusual one with Waxwork, and close out this section.
This is not a mummy movie, it just has a mummy in it, so it's not ranked higher. It's also not lower because this movie is a really enjoyable 80s horror comedy.
Let's start off C tier with Assignment Terror from 1970.
We return to Paul Naschy with this film that predates The Mummy's Revenge, higher up on the list. Paul Naschy tends to get most of his influences from Universal horror, but this one really feels like an Ed Wood movie, but made by Naschy. It's also one of the few films with a woman mummy. Because it's C tier, I say watch it if you want, but there's plenty of better films above.
Let's continue with Tale of the Mummy from 1998.
This film stars Jason Scott Lee and is the movie I recommend most out of these listed on C tier. It's got a mummy that turns into bandages and steals organs to reconstitute itself. Christopher Lee and Shelley Duvall appear. It was filmed in '97, but was released around the same time as the 1999 Mummy, probably to capitalize, but it really is its own thing.
Let's continue with Day of the Mummy from 2021.
Danny Glover, found footage, and some decent CGI saved this movie from being lower on the list. If you want to see a found footage claustrophobic mummy horror movie in the style of As Above, So Below, this and The Pyramid are your only options. For now, at least. Someone else should make one of these.
This is one of the most well-known films on this list, The Mummy from 2017.
It's bad, but Sofia Boutella's graceful performance as the mummy is what saves this movie from having nothing positive about it. She's a dancer, and it really shows in her movements and her, creepy crawling around as the mummy. Beyond that, it's an overly bloated studio mess that looks and behaves like a generic action movie. It's like if a Mission Impossible film had none of the charm at all.
Let's continue forward with Sands of Oblivion from 2007.
Do you like Richard Kind? Well, he's in 2 scenes of this movie, and that's why it's not D tier. Also, the premise is enjoyable. An archaeological dig in Southern California to unearth the set of Golden Age Hollywood biblical epic The Ten Commandments, which also has an Egyptian monster hidden inside of it.
Next up is 2013's Isis Rising, Curse of the Lady Mummy. What a title. What a movie.
I was entertained by this movie in a so bad it's good sort of way. Stupid teenager stereotypes get high and unleash a mummy. Interestingly, one of the only mummy films directed by a woman, the other being Blood of the Mummy, up above.
Next up is The Ghoul from 1933.
Karloff saves this from D tier, but there's not nearly enough of him. It's interesting he took another role in an Egyptian-based horror so soon after The Mummy, but that's about it.
Next up is the battle we've all been waiting for with 2015's Frankenstein versus The Mummy.
Dull, edgy, and largely humorless, this film is from the director of the Terrifier franchise. It has cool makeup and costumes. It also has leather jacket Victor Frankenstein working at a college and arguing religion with his Egyptologist girlfriend while he creates a rapist Frankenstein monster. There's no depth to the monsters, and I really think this movie could have done with more of the sense of humor he has in his later films.
Let's close out the early 2000s Mummy trilogy with The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor in 2008.
It's funny to say this, but this movie is very historically inaccurate, and it's also the worst of the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies.
Let's go back to Universal with Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy from 1955.
This is late period Abbott and Costello, so some of the jokes are getting a bit old. The plot is basically a parody of The Mummy's Hand, but The Mummy's Hand had comedic elements prior to the horror, so it doesn't really work. It pales in comparison to the best of these films. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, of course.
Let's continue with The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy from 1958.
Can't say much about this. The Aztec mummy fights a robot. It's fun, pulpy Mexican horror.
Next we have 1957's The Curse of the Aztec Mummy.
Like its sequel, fun, pulpy, this time featuring a luchador. About as good as the one with the robot, just in different ways.
D tier is my least favorite of the Mummy movies I've watched, but don't let that dissuade you from watching some of them. Maybe you'll get something out of them. Let's begin with Rise of the Mummy from 2021.
D tier is where we keep the worst of the worst. I watched this movie 2 weeks ago from when I'm writing this, and I can remember nothing of what occurred. This is just my opinion, as like with all of these. It's modern, direct-to-video British horror. I found myself that it has none of the fun quirks or genuine effort that makes Steve Lawson's films so enjoyable. I think this is mostly people running around in hallways, and for that, it gets D tier. I do want to say, like, this is a low-budget film, and I always appreciate when people put their time and effort into making something when they don't have a lot of resources. It just wasn't for me. Maybe it would be for you.
Let's continue with 2005's Legion of the Dead.
An asylum film. In this one, the Legion of the Dead is about 5 guys in bad mummy costumes.
Next up is 2006's Petrified.
A Charles Band flick that teeters just on the edge of not being softcore porn. The mummy is a Medusa-like alien in this, which is usually something I would enjoy, because that sounds awesome, but it's tedious and stagey in a way where I could tell they could have put more effort into it, and it would have been better if they had put more effort in.
In 1993, the tomb was open, and they unleashed The Mummy Lives.
The Mummy Lives is a canon film, which is a studio I've always loved. It's very much a take on The Mummy 1932. It's like if that movie had flashbacks to the past throughout the movie instead of just the one. While this is interesting and there's some fun sets and costume design elements, this movie is a bit too generic for me. It doesn't add much to the genre, it just does the tropes in the order you would expect. There's also a strange astronomy angle, which feels out of place since horoscopes were not an element of Egyptian culture, and this movie treats them like they were.
Let's get our cruise ship tickets to watch 1974's Voodoo Black Exorcist.
Inaccurate to the cultures it uses for its lore, this movie is the story of a mummy killing people on a cruise ship to find its lost love. It's kind of racist.
It's aged very poorly, and I wish this movie was better. It has actually really good cinematography is the thing. I thought they would do more of a love triangle between the mummy, the archaeologist, and his wife, but that didn't really come together in any satisfying way. And I love the 70s atmosphere.
Let's get angry, because it's 2018 and it's time to watch Rage of the Mummy.
I hate to badmouth this one since it was obviously a labor of love. It's very low budget and it feels like a first-time backyard movie. And the thing is, there is a market for that. I'm sure a lot of people would enjoy this. It's just not my thing. It's inspired by EC horror comics, sort of like Creepshow. It features comic book style animations for each death scene. I appreciate the effort on that, but it's not one I would recommend unless it lines up with your interests and you're a seasoned low-budget movie watcher, because I really think this is who this movie is for.
In 2002, they released The Scorpion King, and I watched it.
You might be surprised to see this Mummy spin-off starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's ranked so low because there are no mummies or horror elements. It's more of a Conan the Barbarian type film, and on that level, I really enjoy it.
Let's head down to Vegas and place our bets on 1969's The Mummy and the Curse of the Jackals.
Set in Las Vegas, this movie follows a man in love with a perfectly preserved mummy. This man is cursed and becomes a werejackal. The editing and writing are nonsensical and awkward. It's no budget, yet oddly hypnotic.
There are rumors that the director, due to his age, was experiencing some signs of dementia on the set, which could account for some of it.
The monotonous of it, in combination with the Vegas lights, does something strange to the human mind.
It's sort of like an MST3K type of movie meets slow cinema.
It's time for 1986's The Tomb.
A low-budget Fred Olen Ray action movie loosely based on Jewel of the Seven Stars. It features a vampire woman in a sarcophagus zapping people with lasers. It's a bit of an Indiana Jones knockoff, but only right at the beginning. Not much to say on this one. If it sounds like something you would enjoy, watch it.
If that's what you're into, you sick fuck.
It's time for 1998's Bram Stoker's Legend of the Mummy.
This is one of the best-known adaptations of The Jewel of the Seven Stars, and was titled to cash in on Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm unsure of what to call this subgenre, but this is one of the multiple horror films that came out around the time, such as Mary Riley and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The movie itself is dull and cheap, but does manage to add a bandage-wrapped mummy to the story. I've written a loose screenplay adaptation of this story, and that is one element that carries over in my version.
Next up is Ancient Evil, Scream of the Mummy, from 2000.
This is a film directed by David Dakota, someone famous in the B-movie community, who directed his first film with Charles Band, who is the producer who also produced Petrified. He also made A Talking Cat? This movie is from the Aztec Mummy branch, much like American Mummy. It's the same type of movie as Petrified. The most interesting thing about it, for me at least, is that in some territories it was released as Bram Stoker's Legend of the Mummy 2, despite having no connection. This movie has a sequel called Ancient Evil 2, Guardian of the Underworld. I ordered it to watch, but it hasn't arrived in time for the video, so maybe I'll follow up someday.
Next up is The Mummy Resurrected, from 2014.
Another Jewel of the Seven Stars adaptation, this time taking some of the names, but that's about it. A girl's father, a famous archaeologist, takes her and her friends to a dig site where they end up trapped in the tomb with terrorists outside and an evil spirit inside.
Has anyone noticed all these posters look the same? There's always a screaming mummy in the sky.
Let's close things out with the two Universal films, The Mummy's Ghost and The Mummy's Curse, from 1944 and 1944.
The Mummy's Ghost and The Mummy's Curse are the final two Universal Mummy movies. They're a pair and take the premise of the Mummy's tomb, with the mummy killing people in a small town, but adds the reincarnation elements from Karloff's film. These are the most generic of the Universal movies, and I don't rewatch them often. It's a perfect example of why a fresh element was needed prior to Hammer taking over.
There's a wide and interesting world of mummy-based horror movies, and even though these two are at the bottom of the list, they are a part of that film history, and I would still recommend these to watch to anyone who's watched the other Universal movies first.
So there is the wild world of mummy movies. There's more I could talk about, like Seven Mummies or the Mummy theme park, and those maybe I'll save for future videos. I could also go into unproduced mummy films, such as Clive Barker's or George Romero's scripts. Let me know if there's another horror monster you want me to do a tier list for, and please like, subscribe, and comment below. What's your favorite and least favorite mummy movie? Do you agree with me or disagree? That's all for now. Happy Halloween, and be careful about opening strange sarcophagus.